My name is Nils Fischer. I'm an architect. I'm an architect and I'm a senior associate at Zaha Hadid Architects. At level, you are a person that is overseeing a number of projects, but also kind of get involved in some of the functional departments in the company. And my focus is, as a functional department, is research and development. So I've been founding our internal research group by the name of CODE, which stands for Computational Design and Engineering. We came up with this necessity about 8 years ago when we started to really look at coding or scripting solutions as a very efficient way of dealing with problems, primarily in form generation, very early conceptual stage design. And what we then noted is that architects are not very good coders, so they don't like to document their code. And what happens is, person leaves, a bunch of undocumented code, and it's useless instantly, so you start all over again. And we thought, okay, we need to institutionalize that. So we started just by creating a framework to amass knowledge on, let's say, reusable processes. And then all of a sudden we said, okay, now we kind of amass them, how about introducing performance metrics? So we started to see what are the solutions that architects really like to use to advance their work. And then all of a sudden you could determine, okay, maybe we have a big demand in this particular sector here, let's turn this into research projects. So it was kind of an organic growth that kind of started with a kind of knowledge conservation project, and then all of a sudden, once we had amassed a critical mass of information in that unit, then all of a sudden started to develop its own life and became an innovator in the company. And that is, on one hand, of course, everything that has to do with early stage concept development, and concept development is really about making relevant concepts. There's a very, very small amount of time you have at an early stage of a project to make a winning proposal, and as we're not artists, we need to win our proposals in order to build them, because we need to convince many people that it's worth to invest into a project. So the code group primarily deals with early stage conceptual problems, helping to make ideas that are mostly driven by design intent feasible, but then at the same time also exploring what the dimension of feasibility can add to the aesthetic value of a project. So there's a lot of kind of convergence between aesthetics and performance systems, which you actually see in natural or nature identical structures. And that actually became quite a generator. But the focus is really performant conceptual design. And what we try to do is we try to increase the number of layers of consideration we can take into account when doing, let's say, a 2-3 week concept charrette in our office. So we develop very powerful computational models these days that kind of allow designers to work with a lot of data in the background whilst still intuitively interacting with the model. So it's primarily, it is design or conceptual design research. And fabrication comes in because when you want to make things feasible or relevant as a design, you have to understand how they're put together. So whenever we create a problem, we also start to think about the solution, and this is now where it's very, very helpful to be a couple of years ahead of the curve, because every now and then we get the opportunity to do little research pavilions so we can test new technologies, and this is then where we just look at stuff that hasn't been used in architecture yet and just see, okay, what about doing something out of material X? And this is where these kind of industry, let's say, summits or conferences are very interesting, because you see what are other disciplines like engineering, aerospace, kind of using to solve their problems, and is there something that we could use to solve a problem that we are just about to create? So it's a bit primarily to get the foresight that allows us to improve the quality of our concepts.